Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshops, where you can get a different topic every Wednesday for technology. Today, we are going to be talking about backing up. This is World Backup Day, and this is what we're here for. We had 4 excellent workshops this past month. We have 2 coming up next month. One, it's a Linux workshop and a workshop on the genealogy with some different programs. And I think that there's another workshop in the makings too in the second week. And Judy might speak on that. Today, we are going to be having a kind of a panel, a number of different people talking about different aspects of backing up. And I'm going to turn it all over to Judy because she has the beginning parts and she will let us know what's going on.
Thanks, John, and welcome to the Backing Up workshop and happy World Backup Day. And I'm hoping that everybody gets inspired to back up because not many people really do. So this is quick and dirty backing up 101. We all kind of know this, but it's a refresher and a reminder. So as I said, today's World Backup Day, and their slogan is, don't be an April fool. Be prepared, back up your files, at least on March 31st. And everybody should take the pledge to themselves. I solemnly swear to back up my important documents and precious memories on March 31st. And in invisible ink, it's in at least weekly, or if nothing else, at least monthly. I back up daily. And I will also tell my friends and family about World Backup Day. Friends don't let friends. So why in the world should we back up? Well, 30 of us don't back up, even though we all know we should. And I think that statistic for 30% is low because in several of the groups that I've given presentations to get to this month, when I ask how many are people backing up, you know, you get the eyes averted over to the left or the right, and very few people raise their hand and say they are doing it. And another statistic is 70% of seniors would do it if they had someone patient to show them how. Well, 501c3s are the name of our game is education. So hopefully you have given a very, very basic backup presentation to your group, or might give one, you know, in a while. Our computers get infected. We lose our phones. I lost mine in the house the other day, and then it jumped right out at me. And we still don't think about it, and we just don't take the time. But mostly, if we haven't set it up, we just don't think of it. Data backup is one of those better safe than sorry precautions. You know, it's kind of like wearing a seatbelt. It's something that you really should do. We need a strategy, because if we haven't got a strategy and make it super simple, if that's what you'd like, to extremely complicated, all of a sudden, everything might be gone and you go, uh-oh, what do I do now? So if you hear grinding noises and beeps, I found out that any competent tech can tell from the beeps on what is happening with your computer. I was involved with the Southwest Technology Conference in San Diego for 20 years, either as chair or co-chair, and then 3 additional years at Cal Poly Pomona. I lost my backup, my hard drive twice. I heard beeping noises. I called the president of the Long Beach group, who was a good friend and a techie. And he said, hey, Judy, turn your computer off, turn it back on, and put the receiver down by the computer. It was a tower. And he said, you know, kid, you really need to think about, you know, making sure you have a complete backup and buy yourself another hard drive. And it was right before Southwest, both times that I had hard drives that were failing. And over 23 years, you know, maybe, you might not have had one, but I've been the lucky camper who's had two. And I was able to get a new hard drive and transfer all the data over. If I had not had a backup, Southwest Conference would not have been able to go on because I was the keeper of everything. So they do fail. You can't recover anything. I can remember General Counsel's hard drive failed at work, and he said, oh my gosh, it has my life's work on it. I sent it out. The company would, spend any amount of money they possibly could to retrieve the data. I got 3 trashed files back for a couple of $1,000s, and that was it. Bad actors, send out ransomware. So a good backup strategy makes a big difference in our lives, and it can give us peace of mind. There isn't something nagging on our shoulders saying, isn't there something you're supposed to do? And of course, in the ever popular viruses can attack us from a download off the internet or wherever. So we really need to be prepared. And as I was putting this together for the Los Angeles Computer Society at their February meeting, CISA sent out a best practices to minimize ransomware risks. And I thought, how appropriate. And the entire document had a red background, and that sure got your eyes. And they said, back up your data, system images and configurations, and don't forget to test them and keep your backups offline. And I say at least one backup offline somewhere else. And you need to test. If you are blithely backing up and all of something happens and you find out that, oops, it stopped really being effective, you're in for a rude awakening. So I every once in a while create a test document of gobbledygook, and it gets backed up, and I check just to make sure it's there. So some buzzwords, what's backup mean? It's just a copy of the data stored on your hard drive. And what is one of the places you can put it? Your external hard drive, and that's connected through a USB cable. Also, the cloud backup. When you hear Bill James' presentation, you will find he strictly uses the cloud. And that's something that you pay for, or, there are free cloud backup programs. And we can also do it online synchronization with OneDrive, Google One, Dropbox, you name it. And the full backup is a duplicate of every single thing on your hard drive as it exists at that particular time of day and hour. And if you have to restore your system, everything is there, and you can use it when setting up a new computer. Bob G says every Friday night, he unplugs from the internet, so to speak, and does a system image and backs everything up on Friday night. And when he gets up Saturday morning, everything is taken care of. He plugs back into the internet and off he goes. With ransomware out there, it's best not to have your external hard drive turned on at all times. Just turn it on when you're going to be backing up, just in case. And these are some of the programs that are popular for doing a full backup. And in one of the articles I read yesterday, they said Acronis TrueImage was the first image backup program that was created. I couldn't verify that anyplace else, so I'm, take that for what it's worth. Many people use Clonezilla, and that is for the free and open source people. They love things like that. Others use those other 3 programs, and there's a ton of others, but these are the ones that I saw noted most for doing a full backup. Data backup, which is what I do. I don't do a system backup. I always figure I'll just go out and buy a new computer. Is copying my files and folders in case of disaster, accident, or bad actors. Again, the full data backup is a copy of everything pertaining to documents, photos, videos, music, you name it. Differential copies files that have changed since the last full data backup or image backup you've done. I do incremental. I back up data that has changed since the last full, or incremental backup. So how many pictures do you take? They're extremely important to people. And this says that in 2022, we'll all worldwide be taking 1.56 trillion pictures. I got a call one day from one of my son's best friends, and this little voice said, Mrs. Taylour, I turned my computer on and the screen is black. And I said, oh, Bree, did you back anything up? And she said, you know, somebody gave me that for Christmas, and I've been meaning to call you and ask you to come over and help me set it up. And they lost every single picture of both of their daughters. And the only pictures they could accumulate after that was the one she sent my son, their relatives, friends, etc. And they said, they sent an email out to everybody and says, please send us what you've got. But literally they lost, because gone were the days of going to Walmart and getting two pictures, and then like my kids would come to my house and go, okay, Mom, here's your copy, here's our copy, here's your copy, here's ours. That was long gone, and they lost everything. So there's a 3-2-1 rule. 3 different copies of your files saved on 3 different drives or locations. 1 copy's on our hard drive, whether it be a record player or a SSD. 2 different types of storage, external hard drive or a cloud. 1 is for at least 1 copy to be backed up off-site. And that ensures that you've got a copy in case of my place where I live in Southern California, earthquake, or I happen to be in the fire zone, even though I'm 35 miles northwest of Los Angeles, flood, or even a very thorough burglar. So you're going to back up your C drive or your data. I happen to have a D data drive, which is driving me crazy. And these are the kinds of things that I back up. And there's a list. I believe in numbers, because the folders that I work within on a daily, weekly basis, I want them up at the top of my list. I don't want to have to look for them. And how would I choose a backup? I have to be able to understand it. For me, it's ease of setup. Cost, some people want it to be for free. If I find one that is easy to set up, honestly, I wouldn't care how much it costs. I have to be able to natively do things by myself. How quickly our data can be backed up. One of my members was using an cloud backup program, and over time he found out that, you know, they were putting in obstacles, and it was taking him longer than usual to back up what he had backed up a few months ago that went boom really quickly, no longer was, and he had the same internet access, etc. So he changed cloud backup companies. You want to make sure that your data is secure, that it's encrypted when it's at the backup location, and you want the ability to restore and recover your data quickly, just in case something happens to your computer. And then do you want to have it available via a mobile, a tablet app, so you can access your data there. So back in the day, we had floppy disks, then we have CDs and DVDs, and now we have external hard drives, the cloud, and online synchronization. We do keep moving on in the world of technology, and that's what makes it so much fun. So if you go the external hard drive like I do, plug it in and you're ready to go. Make sure it's a USB 3, not a 2, or a USB-C. I believe in alphabetical order, so there they are. My favorite is a Seagate, and I don't like Western Dig at all. And of course, you need to have it larger than your internal hard drive. Amazon has 2 terabytes for $60, which is probably, just for grins, the minimum that people should get. You can do it with the Windows 10 backup apps, or again, you can buy a third-party backup app. Backup in the cloud, a lot of people swear by Tom's guide. These are how he rates the top 3 in his estimation of cloud backup systems. I happen to use iDrive, and I've used it for 4 years. The first year, this one's for sale right now. When I snipped this, for $3.48 for 5 terabytes of pod backup. Normally it's $69, $70. And there's Backblaze's cost, and our good friends Jean and Linda Barlow with user group to give all user group members a 50% discount on any of their products. PC Mag rates 4 at the top. I happen to have never heard of SOS backup, but that's okay. And then Windows Central likes those 3 best of all. The way to find out about, what is a good one is to talk to your members. We're all about sharing. If you have people in your group that say, hey, I'm using this and it's really, really easy. I've never had a problem with it. It goes very quickly. I've had to retrieve things. Then you might think, then that's the one for me, because you're relying on, somebody in your group that knows about technology and what they're talking about. And with iDrive, and I would suggest everybody who backs up to the cloud gets something like this. I get an email shortly after my backup has taken place. And this is the information that it gives me. And sometimes it backs up 3 files. Sometimes it will back up 15 files that I have worked on that day, because I back up to the cloud every single day. With online synchronization, OneDrive. If you are using Microsoft 365, I just have a single license, but I can use it on several computers. You can look at it as paying $70 a year for a backup program, or $70 for a backup program and the ability to use the latest and greatest with Microsoft Office programs. Many people use Dropbox. I can remember way back in the day, Jim Evans saying, hey, Judy, would you please, subscribe to Dropbox and mention my name. They were working a promotion that, if you could get people to set up a Dropbox account, then the referring person got extra space. And he ended up with a gazillion gigs on Dropbox. And Bill James did the same thing. And he uses Dropbox also. And, he has a lot of space. Google One, also known as back in the day, Google Drive. It's the next step up. You got 15 gigs with your Gmail. And if you want to use Google as your backup, then here's the prices for that. As I said, as I went around the groups, People Swear by Leo Notenboom. His favorite backup program is EasyS, and he's even written a book about it. When I was giving a presentation to the Lorain County Computer Club, I asked how many people have backed up, and their education chair said, I use EasyS. I've been using it for 6 years. John Roy, the past president of the group in Connecticut, says, I like Macrium Relief, and it's free, but he pays the license. He said he has tried several other backup programs, and they just don't compare to the program that he uses. One of my members has been using Acronis for 14 years, and Mickey, Lorain County's treasurer, has been using Acronis since the XP days. Then again, I use iDrive, and I've been using it for 4 years. And it was a recommendation from my good buddy Jim Evans, because he was using that too. Our 4 panelists use an assortment: Dropbox, Icloud, Time Machine. You can read it there. John has found a new program, and he's giving up iDrive. And Rich likes Desynchronize. And they are going to talk about and show you how all of those programs work. Don't forget to back up your favorites and bookmarks. You can do that with Chrome, Edge Chromium, and Firefox. And last but not least, don't forget to back up your smartphone just in case. And Bill is going to be talking about that. And I am finished. Over to John Kennedy.
Oh, to me? I don't
Yes.
have my list of who's next. I think it's Art. Is that
Yes,
correct? Yeah.
it is.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to have a number of different people talk more specifically about backing up and what they do. Because I can tell you right now, with Judy and me and Bill, we don't care what you use. We care that you back up. So we're going to give you some different options and then hope that you go out and give some a try. So Art, if you want, Art, if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen, and it'll be your turn.
When we do the live Q&A, I bet there's other people out there who have other programs they can share with us.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, do you see my screen?
That's correct.
Okay, so this is my simple backup plan, and I put a question mark there because as I go through it, you'll have to make your decision about whether you think it's simple or not, okay? Okay, so now I need to make sure this is gonna, okay. I'm more concerned with continuity planning, which is sort of what Judy was talking about. I don't want to have a single point of failure so that if something goes wrong, I lose everything. So my plan covers protection of the data across all my computers because I don't just have one. I use some backup software. As I said, I use Carbon Copy Cloner, which is pretty standard in the Mac world, and also Time Machine, which comes with the operating system. I use Dropbox and something called Icloud. And I also have a network attached storage device that provides a little bit more resiliency. So that's my backup plan on steroids because I think it's a little overkill, but that's what I do. All right, so what are my threats? I think Judy went through all of this stuff. I could have a hardware failure. I've actually had software problems. Think about some of the times when Microsoft's Windows updates have destroyed data just by virtue of the update system. You could have network failures. There's just a whole myriad of problems you can have with loss of your stuff or your data. So my continuity plan provides all my computers are backed up and tested on external bootable hard drives. Key there, they're tested once I make a backup of my image on each of my computers. I test it to make sure that I can boot that image. I have multiple sync copies of my data and they're not residing on my computer. All of my data is backed up to the cloud and to unmounted hard drives. All computers have access to all of the cloud data and the NAS data, and it provides access no matter where I am. I can be on vacation in Mexico and I still have access to my data. So my plan provides data redundancy, the ability to do a complete restore of any computer that I work with, and I can recover any data that I need to look for. So I have a classification system that I use. I classify my data as a current project, an ongoing project, or some kind of an archived project. So you can think of a tax return as an archived project. You only use it once a year. So across my Mac, I have the basic Mac OS hard drive that has the bootable image and all that stuff. The crucial A is where I keep my Time Machine backup. Pcloud is a cloud storage. And the NAS drives are the 3 terabyte HDD and the 3 terabyte select. And then I have an extra mounted partition that I'm not using currently, but that's what I have on my computer right now. Okay, so my backup software is Carbon Copy Cloner and Time Machine. Carbon Copy Cloner is, like I said, pretty much the standard for people using a Mac. It does a complete image and allows you to boot that image from that external drive, which is really something. It can back up an image with incrementals as well. Each computer is backed up. I back up each computer whenever I install a new operating system or a major upgrade. I use a USB hard drive for the backup, and each hard drive is booted after the backup just to test it. So for Carbon Copy Cloner, I have the source drive is the Macintosh hard drive. And then the destination, as I said, is an external USB drive. And you'll notice that it's only 250 gigabytes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So Up at the top of my Mac, I've got a little C that is basically the icon to open the program. And this is the program as it opens, and you select a source and a destination. And you can see on the right hand or left hand side, you can make your choices of which drive you want to select. So it also has the ability to intellectually, or I should say intuitively or whatever, automatically pare down the increments so that I always have 25 gigabytes of free space on my hard drive so I don't ruin the backup. That's a pretty big deal. Okay, so now I've got them selected. You can see that the hard drive says it's got 670 gigabytes, but my goodness, my Mac hard drive that I'm going to back it up to has only got 250 gigabytes. So there's a selection there that says I'm only going to copy some of the files. And you can see that I have virtual machines on my Mac, and you can see that there's lots of virtual machines. So I just say, I don't want to do that. So I'll just unselect the virtual machines. And now I'm going to be back into being able to back it up. Remember, I'm not backing up incrementally all the time. I'm just doing it very, very selectively. So you can see that I've got this thing working. It actually establishes a task, so the task can be scheduled. And you can see I can schedule it. So my scheduling is done whenever I reconnect the external hard drive. It'll automatically bring up Carbon Copy Cloner. So you can see it's starting to run right now. And when it gets done, I get the message saying, hey, you did this thing, it's finished. And then it's upon I have to go back and do the whole system of trying to get it booted and everything like that. All right, so I also have Time Machine running all the time on the drive that I showed you. And that allows me to back up instantaneously and or recover. And it also provides the ability to search historically for any file that I might have had some time ago that I might have lost. I choose to skip the virtual machines because of the efficiency of the storage use. Anytime you use, like if I have a Windows 10 Office stack, it's a little over 100 gigabytes. And every time I back it up, it comes up with a brand new image. So you change anything on that stack, it gives you another 100 gigabytes. You can see you can burn up space really, really fast. And it's only, I mean, as long as the image is on the original image backup that I do with Carbon Copy Cloner to the external hard drive, I don't care if Time Machine backs it up or anything backs it up. So here's a look at Time Machine. You can see it shows on the side the dates. You can just go back by date and look for a date when you might try to find a file you're looking for. I also use Dropbox as cloud storage. And my Dropbox is only used for current projects. In your world, you use My Documents. In my world, I use Documents. I don't use any of that. I strictly use Dropbox, and it's displayed in Finder, and it's just a folder, and I use that instead of any of the other ones that you people use, because it just takes the place of the Documents folder. And it's synced instantaneously or almost instantaneously with the Dropbox cloud server so that I can get that data anytime I need it on any computer that I can hook up to the internet with. And each of my computers has a copy of my Dropbox folder on it. So all of my work is available to any computer I have. This is a copy of my Dropbox folder. Icloud is a kind of an interesting storage facility. Judy didn't talk about it, but it's just a storage facility. I chose it because I can pay a one-time price and I don't have to worry about paying a monthly fee. Again, it's displayed as a folder, and I use that for all of my projects that are ongoing, and it acts like a second hard drive. When I first bought my Mac Mini, it only had a 250 gigabyte hard drive on it, and I needed more space than that, so I decided that some cloud storage was the way to go. Again, Icloud is synced instantaneously. It's just like Dropbox and Time Machine. And there are all these pCloud folders then are mounted on my hard drive and show up in Finder just like it was a hard drive. So you can see that's the icon, and then there's a pCloud drive that shows up on my desktop. I just pop it open, and you can see that this shows you what it looks like when you open up Finder. It just shows up as pCloud drive, and then once you open that, all the folders that are underneath it show up. All right, last but not least, I have a network attached storage device. And I've mounted, this didn't work right. I'm sorry. Let me move this. Anyway, in a Mac, you just have to connect to the external server and then it'll show up. I've just connected all of the drives to my computer. And now all of a sudden they show up on the side of my box and I have access to them just as if they were a hard drive that's located internally. So there's Carbon Copy Cloner. There's pCloud. There's Dropbox. There's the QNAP is the NAS device that I was telling you about. And then there's Time Machine. So in summary, I offer data redundancy, the ability to back up anything that I have. It's based on a data classification system. Dropbox is used for any of my current stuff. I use a computer backup and Apple Time Machine for everything, for both, or actually for all of my computers. And the cloud storage is just in place of a hard drive on my computer. And all the data is available on any computer at any place in any location. So, any questions?
I'm not quite sure if Judy wanted to save them all till.
Oh, well, then that's fine. I'm
end.
done. I'm done. I'll just
Thank you.
unmute my screen.
Cool. Thank you much.
Some good bit of information, and there will be a couple questions later.
Well, all I was going to say is everything that I do, with the exception of Time Machine, would be available on a Windows machine. Like Dropbox is available on Windows 10, and pCloud would be available on Windows 10, and a NAS certainly would be available to connect to a Windows 10 box. So the only thing is, it's software specific to Carbon Copy Cloner. And I don't know, I use Carbon Copy Cloner on my Windows 10 boxes, but I'll have some questions about people that use Windows 10 and backing that up at some point in the future. So I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, we've heard from some information that's been very good, that's usable by everybody, but specifically for Mac. And I think now we're going to switch over to Windows, and we're going to turn things over to Bill James and let Bill share some of his practices with backing up.
So I'm going to start out kind of with some advantages and disadvantages of using cloud storage, which is my primary backup. And as Judy pointed out, I do a variety of, I'm using Dropbox, I'm using OneDrive, as well as Google Drive. But I think it's worth mentioning about what cloud storage is all about and why it is important. So the 5 advantages that I think, and these are my personal opinions, but I borrowed this from some other sources, is that as an overview, it's a service which data is stored and maintained in cloud servers. The service provides a user a chance to access data remotely from any location around the world, and there's no restriction for the user in location or time of accessing the data. So it's available 24/7. I think cloud storage has changed the perspective of data storage because it's becoming a primary option for storing data online for many users. And today, most popular cloud service providers are Google Drive, Microsoft Azure, OneDrive, and Dropbox. Although cloud storage has opened the door for many organizations' personal users, there are some considerations that has to be made. And so I'm going to show you what I find, what is the advantages and disadvantages. But unlike a traditional hard drive where all the information is stored physically, the data present in the cloud are stored on virtual servers. The major difference between a traditional hard drive and cloud storage is its access. Now, for some of the advantages and disadvantages. First, the advantage is cost. When the need for more storage space increases, automatically the expenses increases as well. So if you compare this with a hardware purchase, cloud storage is highly affordable. There's no need to purchase additional hardware. Cloud storage providers purchase lots of storage, and they provide them to their customers at a savings. Although the cost of physical drives have decreased significantly, the risk of hardware failure and loss of data can be expensive. Number two, of course, is accessibility. When you upload your files to a cloud storage, you can access it at any given time. The only thing you need is internet access. It's beneficial to individuals who have multiple devices or organizations who have a large number of workers residing in remote locations. Moreover, people who are on the move can also benefit. And the most important thing, of course, is recovery. In the event of a need of a backup, cloud storage has significant advantages. In case of any hard drive failure, you can access your files using cloud storage. Cloud storage provides flexible backup solutions if anything goes wrong. With a cloud storage, there's always a second copy available, hence you don't need to worry about damaged or lost data. Security is always a primary concern for every individual and businesses. Cloud service usually has more than one layer for security, and these additional layers ensure that there's no unauthorized access to stored data. And we've talked about synchronization. It's a very easy option. Users are not stressed in updating or moving files from one device to another. With files stored in the cloud, whenever a change is made, they are automatically synced and updated. And the updated version of files can be accessed from any device at any time, anywhere. Now, the disadvantages, of course, is network connectivity. If you use cloud storage, you have to have the proper network connection. Cloud storage is dependent on an internet connection. So you almost always need to keep that in mind, because there are many areas where there's not a reliable network connection. Another disadvantage is the limited bandwidth is offered by some cloud providers in storing files. It's all right when you're transferring smaller files that don't require much bandwidth, but say, for instance, if you're using large files such as audio and video, you require a serious amount of bandwidth. And it's especially problematic if you don't have a speedy internet connection. And if you surpass the given bandwidth limitations, you have to pay an extra charge. Privacy. Users don't usually have will not have control over the data privacy in the cloud storage, because it's still a mystery as who controls the privacy, whether it's the cloud service provider, you the client, or the company. Which also brings the disadvantage of lack of control. There's no surety that the data stored in the cloud storage is perfectly secure. And since it's stored on remote servers located in distant locations, you have the you like the ability to be able to control them. And lastly is support. In the event there's any technical issues, you have no other choice but to call your cloud service provider. Cloud storage likes on the side of support, especially if you're a user who uses the free version of. So you're dependent on online forums or fax for technical advice and support, which brings us to what I'm using, and we'll get to that. Within Windows 10, you have a built-in backup program, which is actually based on using a physical drive in this case. So it's called Windows 10 File History. And to get started with that, you type file history in your search box and click on backup settings. And basically it just requires you to have a backup drive attached to your USB, and you turn the switch on, and it'll begin to look for the drive, and it will then sync with it. And it follows the same file structure or nomenclature you find. It'll back up your documents, it backs up your music files, your picture files, etc. And if you want to use an older backup, you can create that using the Windows 7 backup, which is and restore still, and it still works in Windows 10. So you just go to the backup and restore. So what happens, it's going to write copies of your data files each time they change. You can recover a file as it was an hour ago, week ago, or a month ago. Backing up using file history page, go to click add drive, and then select the drive you want to use. And you have several options. You just click on, it'll tell you whether your data has been backed up. You just click on backup now. And then you can choose how you want them backed up. If you want every hour, you can go as small as 10 minutes. And then you also have the choice of whether or not, if you want, how long you want them kept. If you want them kept for a month, 3 months, forever, or until you run out of space. But until space is needed, it's really a good choice. So you want to tell, you've heard everyone talk about folders of what you want to back up. So the list of folders that file history monitors for updates will be your contacts, your desktop downloads, pictures, and documents. And you can click on to add the folder if one's not on the list. And to do so, you just click on the plus button at the bottom to add those, or you can also exclude folders as well. So if you decide that you don't want to use the download folder, then you can exclude that from the backup. So that is really, if you're going to use the mechanical version, what I call the mechanical version of backing up is using the built-in Windows 10 file history feature. But the one that I feel most comfortable with, and I think is easiest for me, we all talk about ease of access or ease of use, is using actually OneDrive and Google Drive. And these are the two that I will talk about now. So as I told you earlier about cloud storage, is that these are both based on cloud storage. So when you're going to use the OneDrive, you want to start backing up your files. You go to settings and update and security. And I think I can, and then you want to click on backup. And under the backup files, you'll find OneDrive, and you just click on the backup files option. Let me show you that. So if I go here to settings, now mine's already set up, so it's going to be a little bit different, but under update and security, you'll see backup. And then right here, as you notice, I'll make that large so you can see, it says backup files to OneDrive. Congratulations, files in your desktop, documents, and pictures folders are now backed up and protected by OneDrive. You can access these at any time from any device. Now, at the bottom, you notice, since this is already set up, when I click on OneDrive, it shows all the files and documents that I have available in the folders. And so this is kind of the structure that I see every time I go into my File Explorer. I see this exact same thing. So for me, it's not really confusing at all. It's something I'm very accustomed to that I use all the time. So that's a picture of the screen I just showed you. And here, this is where it's just where you're initially starting. You'll see when you go into backup, you'll see where it says backup files, and this is where you will start making your choices. So you want to click the to clear the folder you don't want to back up to the cloud. So here you see we have your desktop, your documents, and your pictures. If you don't want these backed up to a particular cloud, you just click on the check mark here to clear it. So that means that only documents and pictures would be the ones that were to be backed up. And then once you do that, you want to click the Start Backup button. And then OneDrive will begin backing your files that you've chosen, while it's keeping a copy of, on the device and syncing them across all your other devices. So the advantage, of course, is now, regardless of what device I have, and I have multiple computers. I have a desktop, a laptop, I have a Mac Mini, and I use OneDrive on the Mac as well, so I can get to my Office documents. It's primarily the tool I use for writing my materials is Windows, is Microsoft Office, Word. I use Excel and those programs, and I can get those using for my backup. So if you're using the free version of OneDrive, you can only store up to 5 gigabytes worth of files. And of course, if you have Office 365, it gives you 1 terabyte for each user. So if you're just using the personal copy and you're paying the $65 for that, then you have 1 terabyte of cloud storage. If you're paying the $99 for what they refer to as the family plan, each of the users also will have 1 terabyte in addition to yourself. Now, when you want to start, when you want to manage your backups, you want to click, you'll have the OneDrive icon on your taskbar. Now remember, I have 2. I'm using both OneDrive and I'm also using Google Drive. So Google Drive also has a cloud on my taskbar. I'll show you that. So when I haven't set up Google Drive, but this is the icon. So when I click on this, it's going to give me the information of what I need to do as far as managing my storage. And since I've added some files this morning, it's in the process of trying to sync these right now. So when I go to the manage, my backup, when I click on that little cloud, I'll get a screen that looks like this. And it will then allow me to manage the folders that I have. I can also select the folders I want to back up in the cloud as well if I want to make some changes after I've even started my backup. So that takes care of using cloud storage for OneDrive. My Google backup, which is what we'll talk about next, I'm actually, it gives you the ability to back up and synchronize individual folders and files from your desktop to the Google Cloud storage. You can download the Google Drive contents to your local computer. And additionally, it gives you the option to select the quality of your uploaded photos. I think we're all using probably Google Photos these days because up until recently, it was a pretty good deal. That's all changing soon. But to set up the Google Drive backup and sync on Windows 10, you want to log on to Google's Drive and download and install. And you'll see something that says Get Backup and Sync for Windows. And I'm going to make an attempt to do that on this computer since that hasn't been set up. So we'll just go here and do that. So in this case, I'm going to just follow the prompts. I'm going to launch Google Chrome. And then I'm going to go here. and I'm going to go to settings. And I'm going to click on sync Google. So now I have this turned on to do sync everything. And then right here is where I'm going to choose the items that I want synced. So I want to sync my apps. If I want to customize, I could, right now everything is being synced. If I want to just sync the apps, I can choose here, and then I can selectively choose what I want to sync. And then once that's done, I'm set. So I can click on the application to navigate a new tab to download the backup and sync. And then I agree to the conditions. And then step 3 is to click on the Get Start button and double click the set of files to install. This will be the file that you'll be downloading, and then select Run, and the process will finish. Then I just sign in to my Google account. And then the backup and sync will pop up, and it will show the files by default, which is your desktop, documents, and pictures. And then you want to check the folders to continuously back up and sync with Google Drive. Now, here, you want to look for this area right here for where the photos are being done. You want to make sure that you have that selected. Remember, if you use the high quality, you can use that if you have unlimited storage, but if it'll tell you how much storage you actually have. So you want to make sure that when you're uploading your videos and photos, that you choose which one of these you want to use. And then in step 5, you want to sync your preferences, and then to choose folder. Click on the necessary one and then select folder. And then select the type of quality of photos and videos you want to use. If you use the standard quality, that will avoid you from having to purchase extra space. And then the step 7 is this, as you set up your Google Photos, you want them to upload them automatically. You want to check that box. And then if you have to manage your bandwidth, it also gives you the opportunity to do that, and you can click Network Settings. And then normally you don't have to bother with that. Just let the proxy settings to auto detect, and it'll start doing the backup automatically.
Bill, can you go full screen, please?
Oh, yeah. And then it will show you these boxes here. And this information, you can just probably leave it at its default. But if you need to set a custom upload and download rate, you want to check those limits. And then select next. And then subsequent settings will determine which files or folders in the Google Drive will synchronize with your PC. And you have to consider the space that's available on your laptop to set these options. So you don't want to exceed more space. In other words, these folders right here, you need to be aware of the fact that you have 1 gigabyte selected, 1.1 gigabyte selected, and you have 1.9 gigabyte available on your computer. So those, you don't want to exceed that amount. You want to make sure that you're under that when you select your folders. So once you've configured all these settings, your photos and data are safe, and then Google Drive becomes the backup, and it can be used in addition to OneDrive. So you have the redundancy, so that both you can you have backup with OneDrive, and you also have a secondary backup with Google Drive. So John, that's I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Bill. We'll be back to you a little bit later with another topic. Thanks for all these questions coming in. Make sure you send them to Judy so that she makes the list. I pass them on to her, but if you directly send them to her, you eliminate me. Next on our agenda, we've got Rich Allen, and we invited Rich to join us because he has a very unique system for his backup, a program that is available. He's going to talk about it. And similar to what Judy was saying about what Bob G was doing. So I'm going to let Rich start sharing his screen and talk to you all about Desynchronizer.
Okay, can you hear me, John?
Yep.
Okay, let's share my screen. Come on. There we go. Okay, now it should be seeing
Looks
the
good.
screen now. Okay. Okay, like many of the people that have presented and talked this morning, I use a variety of different methods for backup. First of all, in my workstation, in my PC, I have what's called a mirror. I have 2 drives that are set up in a mirror setup where whatever is recorded on one drive is mirrored on the other drive. So that way I have a redundancy. So if one hard drive fails, if my data hard drive fails, then the mirror is there and I can quickly bring it online as the main data backup. I also use OneDrive. I use OneDrive more for transferring files to different PCs within my house. I have a PC in my basement in my workshop, and I create files upstairs here in my den and then save them to OneDrive, and then I can access them down in the basement. For our Apple products, for our iPads and iPhones, we use Icloud, which automatically syncs all of our photographs and contacts from our iDevices to that. But for most of my files as a backup, as an offline backupper, I use a program called Desynchronize. Desynchronize is a standalone program that lets you periodically synchronize multiple sources. It will also, if you want to set it up, it will do a real-time backup. So as a file is changed or a file is added, it will automatically back it up to your external drive. Now, the problem with that is if you were to get an attack by ransomware, then it's going to attach those files because it's online. I use Desynchronize as my offline backup so that all of the files that I really want are offline. So if I did have an attack of ransomware, I'm not going to get those files locked up. You can use Desynchronize to back up to multiple different types of sources, another hard disk, a floppy disk, which nobody uses anymore, LANs, USB keys, CD DVDs, as long as you have like a packet writing system or your FTP. The program is very small. It's about 264 kilobytes, and it does not take up a lot of your system resources. I only run it when I need to, so it's not running in the background or anything like that. As I said, you can back up to a number of different storage devices or options. It makes it fairly easy and can be used for a variety of different things. On the best advantage of the program that it has, and I think John Kennedy will agree with this, that it's free. There's no charge for it. You can download it, you can install it, you can use it. The gentleman who does offer it will accept donations to keep his efforts going, but it's not required for use. My storage setup, as I said, I have a mirror for my data drive. I have basically a 2 terabyte internal storage hard drive with a 2 terabyte mirror. I use a 2 terabyte external storage hard drive. It's mounted in an enclosure. It sits beside my PC. The connection is a USB 3.0, so it has speeds up to 5 gigabytes per second. Most of the time, even if I'm doing a complete backup of my data drive, it's done usually in 5 minutes or so. And that's storing, basically, I think I have over 1.5 gigs used on the 2 terabyte. So it doesn't take very long at all. My procedure usually is this: I boot up my computer for the day or the evening or the session, and I do whatever I need to do, create new files or create, for example, if I'm like later on today, I'll be working on the club's newsletter. When I'm finished for the day, what I do is I take and the external drive is powered off while I'm doing my normal routine or what I'm doing for the day. Once I'm done, I'll do the session. If there's no problems, like ransomware doesn't pop up or anything else, I'll power up my external drive. Then I'll run Desynchronize. Desynchronize will go up and it's set up where it has a certain number of files that I have backed up on a regular basis. Then once the Desynchronize is done, it will let me know with a tone, and then I power down my external drive. Then once the external drive is powered down, it's not available. So if ransomware was to hit my computer while I had it on, the external drive being powered off is not accessible to any ransomware that would be infected on my machine. So then once I'm completely finished, I power down my system. All right, let's take a look and see how I actually set it up. This is a picture of desynchronized. Its front end, its user interface. Very simple. Up here on the left, there, here are the sources for my backups. And over on the right is the destinations. This is on my external drive, my Z drive, which is the drive that in the enclosure, and it's offline unless I'm going to do my backups. There are a number of parameters that you can set up here. You can do it as a real-time sync, but the disadvantage of that, if you're concerned about like ransomware, if it's doing a real-time sync and you have a ransomware attack, that means that that drive is online. Those files are going to be accessible to the ransomware. So I do not use the real-time sync. These are like jobs. If you want to do it in the synchronization, you would take and click here in this box. You would check mark the things that you want to run during the synchronizing. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and set up a basic job to do. To do that here in the sources, we're going to do a right click. We're going to add a new job. I'm going to browse. And right now on my desktop, I have a folder set up called Sync Test. There it is. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to say OK. That's going to make my source. Now over here in the destination, I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to I'm going to select browse, and it's going to be on my Z drive. So here's my Z drive, my backup drive. Now what I like to do is I like to create the folder ahead of time. Desynchronize will create a folder for you if it does not exist. So if I hadn't created the folder ahead of time, it will do it. But I like to create the folder ahead of time knowing that it's going to be there. I've run into a couple problems in the past where it didn't quite create the folder correctly. So I always do it ahead of time. So I'll select that as my destination. Now, right now, if we take a look in those folders, here's my desktop. And we'll go down here. Oh, where'd it go? Sure. There it is, sync test. If we take a look right now, there are three picture files in the folder. And if we go over to the Z drive and we go to sync test, notice right now there are no files in that folder. So now we'll go back up here, we'll run what's called synchronized. Oh, didn't do it because I forgot to check mark it. Okay, I forgot to tell it this is the job I want you to run. So now we'll do it. As you can see down here in the added files, it listed the files that it did add, and it will tell you if there's an error. It will let you know that there was an error. In this case, everything was okay. So now if we go back to the Z drive, to the sync test, you now see the three files there. They are the same three files. Same three files that were on the original on my desktop. As I said, I use this mostly to do an offline backup of the important files that I want. As you can see, I have my documents here. I have on my data store, I do a newsletter backup, and then I back up some files that I have for a side business I do. And then I can also, these first three are backed up to my data drive inside of my computer. Then when I get, like once a week, I'll come through and I'll do, I'll back up my data drive, I'll make a backup of my data drive itself. So I'll take the 2 terabyte and I will back it up to my external drive. That way all files that are saved on my data drive are backed up to the external drive. I have like over 30,000 digital images that I've collected, and I make sure that those digital pictures are all backed up so that if anything was to happen to my drives, I have those backed up. Let's take. So that's basically how I use desynchronize. Some external links. If you do a Google search for software or desynchronize, you'll come up with the website for the gentleman who produces it. It has several different programs that he offers, so you may have to scroll down and you'll find desynchronize listed there. There is a YouTube video. If you go to YouTube and search for desynchronize, there's a pretty good video that will show you how to go through the steps in more detail than what I've shown you. And this is also a link to the external drive closure that I use. And that's basically pretty much the extent of my presentation. So, John, I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thanks so much. Moving on, I'm going to sort of wrap things up in the desktop, laptop world. And then after I'm done, Bill James will be back to talk about the smartphone world and what you need to be doing for that. I'm going to be running from a different computer right now. Oh, no, let's not do the snow. One of the things that needs to be mentioned for new people, especially since this is what we're hoping we're getting, is that if you're going to do the cloud service, you need to understand that the first time you do your backup, it's going to take a long time, because we kind of forget when we have our downloads from our internet provider that they can be offering very fast. I just went from 100 download speed to 200, but my upload speed is still pretty slow. I'm maybe 5 upload. And so uploading your files is going to take a long time. I talked to a friend who used the Carbonite service, which is another one that's a cloud service that's been around for a while. And I think he said it took almost 5 days before all of his files were uploaded. Now, of course, that depends on how many files you have, and he had lots of pictures, and pictures are big. So understand that the first time you run this, it's going to take days. And a lot of time people worry about what's not working right. Well, think of it, 5 compared to 200. So if you have to recover files, it's not going to take you that as long, because it's going to come down a lot faster. So I wanted to make sure all the people who might be new to cloud service knew that one piece of information. I'm going to mention a different cloud service. As Judy mentioned, I'm the kind of guy who has have a number of different services that I try out. And because most of them give you free, you can be trying them out. And the only difference between free and paid usually is size of storage and maybe tech support. But a different service that I found that is one that I'm looking into now is Intranext. And I have a P-Cloud account, and it's over here on the side, and I'll just pop it up in a minute. But the difference is that with P-Cloud, Bill mentioned about security, and a number of the cloud services will encrypt your files. P-Cloud is one of them. And once they leave your computer, they are scrambled, and no one is going to be able to read it because they can't unscramble it until it comes, back to you. And so there's a feature that you might want to look into when you're picking your different ones. But P-Cloud is one that does that. Intranext is another one that does it, which is important to me about the encryption. But the other thing that's different with Intranext, and those who have been in previous workshops and stuff, it's open source. And that's the difference between Intranext and P-Cloud. The newest difference is that with Intranext, what they're doing is that Bill mentioned that the cloud services have lots of different storage locations. And so you might not know for sure where your files are stored. Intranext is going one step further. And when I upload my files to Intranext, they pull them apart into packets, and part of my packet file goes this way, part goes to that way, part to that. So if the unthinkable happens and somebody was able to hack into Intranext's servers, they would only have part of my file, and it probably wouldn't, besides it being encrypted, it's only a portion of it. And so that's a big feature with the Intranext if you're interested in doing that. Judy mentioned also that I was in an iDrive user too, and I got that from her because of the deals. And so I've been using it, but I have to admit, for a Linux user, it's not the easiest, because the one drawback is that iDrive does not have a desktop client for Linux. P-Cloud does, and so does Intranext. And so I've been using it through the command line, which just means we run a scripts in the background. But once it was all set up, iDrive worked real well, and I was very pleased with it. But I'm giving Intranext a try because of the and P-Cloud, the desktop client. Judy said that I was going to give them up, and I was just about ready to, because my subscription was coming up, and I said, I've got the Intranext and I've got the P-Cloud, and Intranext I've got 500 gigs because they had a flash sale, and it was just too good to pass up. I don't know if it's still on now. So I went to go and drop my iDrive, and I have the same price that Judy had because I got it a while ago. And it's interesting because she showed you that they have a real good deal right now for 5 terabytes, and regularly it's $70. Well, $70 is what I pay for 2 terabytes. And they won't give me the extra, even though the 5 terabytes is the same price as my 2 terabytes. They won't let me upgrade because it's new customers only. So I was going to, drop them. When I click the button to unsubscribe or to cancel my automatic renewal, they popped up a message that said, hey, we don't want you to go. We don't want you to stop. How about if we give you next year your subscription at 50% off? Well, Judy knows me and how I feel about sales, and so I continued with it. So I will be moving, I will keep iDrive back as another option, because it was so so cheap. As a quick look, this is the APCUG, and APCUG, as Art said, shows up as a drive on my file system. And what I like about the APCUG is that if I go to any kind of folder on my desktop, if I right click, I can just send it to APCUG like you do send it to a thumb drive, because it's considered a device. And I really like that part. But in my regular file system, there is a folder for APCUG that I can just store things in that, and they get uploaded to the cloud. With, I got to start it up again. With my Intranex, it does the same thing. It puts a folder in my file system, and there's a new one, so I'm going to ignore it for right now. And so if I go to my file system, and in my home folder, you will see that I now have, let me hide the hidden ones. You will find out that I have, and there we go, Intranex drive. What may be in development is it doesn't show up like APCUG over here, which the only problem is that I can't right click and send to APCUG or to Internet Drive. But all you do is one of two choices. In the Intranet Drive, I've got separated from my tower and my laptop. You just copy folders into here, and then it syncs up into their cloud. If I don't want it on my computer, because I want to save space on my computer because my hard drive's maybe not big enough, if I just create a folder inside of Intranex, it only resides in the cloud. It doesn't take up any room on my hard drive. And so all of these files are copies of what I have. One downside is that if I create or update a file, I have to save it in both places for it to go to the clouds. These folders don't sync up with it. But the fact that it has the ability to encrypt and divide up my files gives me some added security expenses. Now, if we talk about some of the other stuff that we've done out there, Judy mentioned a system backup or a whole image backup called Clonezilla, and that's one of the ones we mainly use. It's a cross-platform program. And what would be very surprising to a lot of you is that most of the backup programs like the Macrium and the EasyUS and some of those are actually Linux CDs that you boot up to your computer and it runs the backup. Because Linux will boot from a medium like that. And so some of you who have been using some of those services, you've been using Linux and you just didn't know it. This version of Linux that I have has a program that is very interesting. It's called MX Snapshot. And this program will allow me to create a thumb drive of my full operating system, export it to the thumb drive. I can take that thumb drive, plug it into a device, and reinstall the whole thing from that thumb drive. And that makes it pretty easy because on my desktop, I used it, created the thumb drive, came to my laptop, and installed the exact with all the files, all the programs compared to what I had on the desktop. And so this is one kind of program that you can have. I'm sure there might be, I would have to ask Art for sure if that's the same thing that his carbon copy could do with the Mac. He mentioned one of the big backup programs that we use in Linux is called Backup, or it's called Deja Du. And in the Linux world, you can have a lot of times the same program that works the same way, but because open source says we can modify it and whatever. So this one is our backup program, or it's sometimes called Deja Dupe, based on background of command lines. And this allows me to create a backup. It allows me to select the folders I want or ignore. And you can see in here that I set it up to ignore anything that was cloud storage, because I don't need to back up cloud storage. It's already in the cloud storage. So it's going to do my home folder, but it's going to ignore those. And then it's going to go to my external drive. And then with this program too, I can do, like many others, I can schedule to have it done daily or weekly. And I can keep those backups forever or however long I want, so that I have a copy of the backup that was made yesterday, the day before, or each week. So I can be able to go back and get something from far back with all the files that I wanted. Another program that he mentioned, okay, the Deja Dupe was the same as the backup. I had to check on that. The other program that he mentioned was Time Machine. And just to let people know that there are options. And in fact, in the Linux world, we have Time Shift. And with Time Shift, you can set it up and it's going to create mostly non-created folders and files. And this is, like Judy said, you know, she only backs up her main folders. And I do that too. You know, the Deja Dupe backs up my folders, but this program, Time Shift, will capture all of the system files and system folders that are needed, so that all I do is run the Time Shift backwards and restore my component. This is very similar to the old Windows restore points. And restore the computer, and then my files are already there. The best practice that I teach, and a lot of us, is that doing what Judy does. She has her operating system on C drive, her data on a D drive. That way, if something happens to the C drive, she just has to replace Windows. All of her files are there. And so that's the same concept with the Time Shift. I can do that with just the system, or I can make a larger one when I go to the setup and tell them what to back up, because you can see that location. I'm going to back it up there, and I can go through in here and tell it what to include, exclude. But by default, this program only keeps the important system files to use. Another program very, very similar to this one. Oh, there, Lucky Backup. Lucky Backup is the same. That's the one I was looking for earlier. Lucky Backup is the one that is the same as the backup program Deja Dupe. Only this one, whereas the other one, it just says you're going to back up your home folder and save it. This is another one that when you go into the settings, that you can determine exactly what you're going to exclude or what you're going to include. And that's what's really nice, that I don't back up any of those cloud stuff. I don't back up any virtual machines either, and it goes that way. Back in Time was the one that was same as the Time Shift. The other thing I was going to make mention of is that it was mentioned by Judy to back up your bookmarks, and you can do that with Firefox and Chrome and Edge. But the problem would be for me is if I go to somebody else's house, I can't get to my bookmarks because they're on my computer. So backing up bookmarks, just like backing up your passwords, is probably the next step from backing up your files. And there are add-ons that you can do, programs like LastPass, not LastPass, that's password. There used to be one that I used to use, but there are add-ons. So they are cloud storage. So I could go to Judy's house, access all of my backgrounds through an add-on for my browser. So those are also important things to do for your backing up for your security. So what I was showing you was the fact that as in Mac and Windows and Linux, we all have the ability to back up. Do people back up? I agree with Judy. 30% is a very low number. And all I can say to you is if you don't back up, it's going to happen to you. You're going to lose your stuff, and we'll be sorry, but there's really not much we can do about it. Okay, I think I'm going to stop till later. And I'm going to call up Bill because I think Bill's going to wrap things up before we have our question and answer time and talk to us about smartphones. Is that right, Bill?
Yes. I'll share my screen. Okay. Backing up Androids and iPhones. Backing up an iPhone or iOS device, it could be an iPhone, iPad, or iPod, is fairly easy. If you have an issue with your device, you can restore the contents from your backup rather than losing it. And Apple has 3 ways of doing that. You can use the Apple's Icloud, or you can plug in a cable and back up directly to your computer using iTunes. And then there's a hybrid option, which is a combination of both. Icloud, as we know, is Apple's online services that share access to photos, music, documents, and other data between their iOS devices, Macs, and Windows PCs. They offer that service 5 gigabytes of storage for free, which you can upgrade it to an additional amount. 20 gigabytes is 99% per month, 200 gigabytes is $3.99, and 500 gigabytes is $9.99. And then you can get 1 terabyte for $20. Those are all monthly fees. To enable the iCloud backup on your iOS device, you just need to go to the Settings app, that's the guy with the gear, and then click on iCloud, scroll down to where you find backup. And then you sign into your iCloud using your Apple ID if it's necessary. And then you just tap on Backup Now to begin backing up. The subsequent backups are automatically performed when the device is within a Wi-Fi network and connected to power. And you can manually start your backups whenever you want by tapping Backup Now. The pros for using iCloud as the backup. It's a great solution for people that don't regularly connect their devices to their computers, as it only requires a Wi-Fi connection and USB power to automatically back up, such as overnight when the device is charging. It's a very complete backup, so if the entire device is lost or damaged, you can easily restore your data to a replacement device. It also includes contacts, calendars, camera roll settings, and app data in its backup. And the apps themselves are not counted against the storage space, but when a restore is performed, they will be downloaded from the App Store, again, automatically. Now, the cons is that you have limited free storage. And since it's all current iOS devices have capacities greater than 5 gigabytes, it's easy to fill that entire space. Additionally, the 5 gigabytes is per iCloud account, not per device. So if you have multiple OS devices, you'll find that the space gets used up pretty quickly. There's no versioning history. And for example, if you need to restore your device back to the condition it was a week ago when you accidentally deleted an entire group of contacts, iCloud will not have any prior versions of your backup. Using iTunes is also easy. You just plug in your device into any Mac or Windows PC with the iTunes that has iTunes installed. And then from the summary page of that device, there is a backup now button to manually start a backup. If you want to automatically start a backup whenever the device is plugged in, enable this computer radio button. Additionally, if you choose the encrypt iOS backup option, the backed up data will be encrypted on your hard drive. So it will require an additional password to restore the data to another iOS device. This is particularly useful if it's a shared computer and has a side benefit of retaining Wi-Fi and email passwords when you restore it. So just like iCloud, it's a complete backup. So if you lose your device or it gets damaged, you can easily restore your data to a replacement device. Now, the pros for iTunes is that typically a computer's hard drive has lots of space available, so an entire phone backup can be kept on the computer without running out of room. And the backups are fast, as it's not relying on an internet connection, but just the USB transfer speeds. The backup software like Time Machine or Backblaze can be used additionally to back up data on your computer. So this gives you another layer of protection. And in the case of the Time Machine and Backblaze, you have versioning, so you can easily retrieve previous copies of your backup. Some of the cons, it takes some discipline to remind yourself to periodically plug in your iOS device to back it up. There are no reminders if you've neglected backups for days or weeks. It requires your computer is available to plug in and sync to. If you're traveling away from your computer for days at a time, there can be a long time between those backups. Then there's the hybrid approach, which is backing up to both the iCloud and iTunes. And in this method, you enable iCloud backups as above, those two that we discussed, and backups occur automatically whenever the device is in Wi-Fi and connected to USB power. Additionally, you can periodically connect the device to your computer and back it up to iTunes, as we discussed before. And you just need to make sure to leave the automatically backup option set to iCloud, as you will be manually backing it up to iTunes. Some of the pros for using this method is that Your device's data is in 3 or more places, one on the device itself, on iCloud, and on your computer. If you use a backup tool like Time Machine or Blackbase, an additional copy and versions can be retained there as well. Having your data in multiple places means that if one of the backups has an issue or is out of date, you have other options to choose from. Some of the cons are the same restrictions to iCloud storage apply. And if you still require a user to remember, it still requires you to remember to plug in periodically and back up the device to your computer. So that's the tips that we have for backing up an iOS device. And we'll now talk about Android backup. So backing up your Android device doesn't need to be difficult. There are a few things you can do to make your device almost fully backed up. And some of the popular methods keep your phone data safe, we'll discuss here. One is Google Sync. This service comes from Google and ties all your data and information into the Google ecosystem using a Google account. That would be your email, your Google email address, and a password. Using Google Sync allows you to back up your app data, your calendar, your Chrome browser, your contacts, docs, drives, Gmail, all the Google things that you have that you've installed on your phone, or it came with it when you purchased it. And all these items are synced across various devices automatically. If you're signed into them with the same Google account, so whether you're on your phone, your tablet, or using YouTube, whatever, they're all synced. Buying a new phone, you simply need to sign into your Google account, and once a sync completes, all the data will be put back into place. So that's something to remember when you go and purchase your new phone, and they'll ask you, what's your Google email address and password. You want to make sure you give them that information, and simply don't create another Google account, because if you do, then you're going to lose the synchronization between your other Google accounts. So if you're thinking about buying a new Android phone and you have a Google email address, take that with you, because you'll be asked when they get ready to set up your new phone. So just remember that. You can even back up your data, such as Wi-Fi passwords and settings, to Google servers, so you won't need to remember them once you get a new device. You simply sign in with your Google account. The pros: Google has a fairly robust solution for backing up data as listed above, and it's easy to set up. Go to Accounts, select Google Accounts, and make your sync selections. Backing up Wi-Fi passwords and other settings is done by going to Settings, Backup and Reset, and then pressing Backup My Data and selecting your Google account. Some of the cons is, while encompassing many of the items you use through Google, any apps that you have installed yourself are not backed up, though the data may be. What that means is that if you purchase a new Android device, you need to re-download the apps you had on it. Often phone manufacturers have their own backup solutions, such as HTC Backup. Samsung Keys, for example, are already pre-installed on the device. Google, HTC, and Samsung, Motorola, for instance, do backups from the phone to their respective clouds. Normally, this is app data, which is contacts, some settings, some user data like pictures and movies, etc. It does not include the apps themselves, nor any lower level data. It also does not usually back up the downloads folder or any of the custom folders created by those apps. Now, Samsung phones, the newer ones, have come out with a rather unique app which is included on the phone, and it's called the Samsung Smart Switch. It's tied to your Google account, and all you need to do is take your old phone and pair it with the new phone through this app, and it'll transfer all the things that matter to you using Smart Switch. And it doesn't matter whether you have a Android, a Apple, a BlackBerry. If you're upgrading to a Galaxy smartphone, it's done in one seamless move. There are also some third-party security apps like Lookout, ESET Mobile, and 360 Security that can back up certain documents like photos, contacts, call history, while also providing protection against viruses and malware. Typically, apps like these require you to download them to a device, create an account, and then select what you would like to back up, secure, or sync. These can require an additional fee. Additionally, apps like Lookout can also include location and theft prevention services. Apps like Dropbox can also sync with their respective accounts and automatically sync photos and videos in full resolution. So if your phone gets lost, there is still a way to recover the items in your phone gallery. You might want to go and look and see and download the Dropbox mobile app. So backing up your phone to the computer is a simple way to copy data from your phone to your machine by simply plugging it into your laptop or desktop with a USB cable. Most often, the phone will appear as a disk drive, and you'll be able to find your photos, music, downloads, etc. in their corresponding folders. So what's found, it is simple as copying and pasting them onto your computer. So if you go to My Computer and look down in the right below where you probably see the C drive, if you have your phone plugged in, you will see it also as just another drive. So Google offers quite a robust backup and sync solution for its Android devices. There are many different additional options, as I described, varying from very easy, setting up a Google to sync data during your initial sign-in, to somewhat more difficult, using an app like Helium to back up apps and data. All these are relatively user-friendly and are many apps in the Android ecosystem. So backing up your Android device isn't a simple set and forget process like your desktop can be. You need to decide which files are important, images, contacts, app history. Make sure you have the right tool for the job, which may mean using multiple methods and services. No matter which method you choose, make sure to test them often. Regardless of what mobile device you have, it's becoming more important than ever to save that data to other locations. Phones get lost, they're stolen all the time, and even though both Apple and Google have ways to remotely find and wipe your devices, the data is often lost with that. So having a backup is a great way to ensure that even if the physical device gets lost, your data will still be available. Sean, I will then stop my share and we'll then turn it over to you and you can take it from there.
Hey, this has been great. I really appreciate you guys all giving those presentations. I learned so much, which is the name of the game. I have 3 final words from me, and then I'll get into the Q&A. iDrive will send you an external hard drive if you have a huge amount of data to back up, so you're not backing up all over the internet for 2 or 3 days. You back up to the external hard drive, then they will populate your account, which I think is way cool. When I started using iDrive, I didn't have to do that, but I would probably want to do that now. I like homegrown stuff. They are 2 valleys to the west of me. And our family did have one other hard drive fail. I got a computer for my teacher's son-in-law in December, and when he was finished with school in May and getting ready to go to UC Santa Barbara for ASB leadership training, he said, "Oh, by the way, my hard drive is dying. Will you please take care of it?" And I went, "Oh, of course I will." And I called HP, and the gal said, "Oh yeah, we've had really bad problems with those. They've been failing all over the place." And I went, "Really? Okay." So she sent me a new one, and I don't do hardware. And, you know, the IT person at the high school put it together for him. But so you never know if you can have your computer for a long time, or it will fail, you know, within 6 months. So I'm going to start with the questions. And Jim wants to know about the security on online systems. Is it good? Is it bad? Can you trust it? Is the data encrypted? Rich, Art, John, Bill, just step in and answer that, please.
I guess I'm personally looked at what certifications each of these cloud services provides. As a previous data center auditor who looked at the security over some of those facilities, I can tell you that Dropbox has every certification that's available for a data center. APCUG is in Switzerland, and so they don't have access to as much, but I believe they still have several certifications. And so the choice of, I mean, you have to unpack the question if you think about trying to answer what you asked. And so you're going to use TLS or HTTPS or whatever. So any data that's being transmitted is going to be transmitted encrypted. And then the question is it going to be encrypted at rest at the location site? And that's just a matter of looking at whichever service you're going to be using. And so that's just a question you have to ask. So the next question is it secure? Well, if you think about it from a risk perspective, I would offer that you have more risk at your house than you do at a data center, because data centers are managed 24/7 with people that are really highly paid to make sure your data is available 99.9999% of the time, okay? So when we start thinking that our data is so important that we can't possibly commit it to the cloud, I think we're missing the point of the kinds of services that are being provided by cloud service providers. So I just think that it's as safe or safer because they have multiple data centers. They have hot sites that are available that are working all the time. And so when you start thinking about all that stuff, it's like, and you're worried about your data in your house? I mean, somebody can break in your house and steal your hard drive. Okay, I mean, that's not going to happen in a data center. And yes, data centers do get broken into, but you have to admit that as a target, our data is probably not even on the radar scope of people that are worried about data, because they want to hit somebody that's got lots and lots of money to encrypt so they can get a lot of, you know, money for their backups of their cryptocurrency and a lot of other stuff like that. So that's a long answer to a short question, I guess.
Well, the same thing would be, where do you keep your money? Do you keep all of your money at home, or do you keep your money in the bank system?
Art's a great answer. Thank you so much.
When I was up at Google at headquarters, they said they keep a little bit here at this data center, they keep a little bit over there. This was in relation to your Gmail. So I'm assuming the exact same thing happens with your backup. This is for John. Can Time Machine be used in a similar way to back up an iPad?
Oh, no, that was from somebody. That would have to be Bill and
Yeah,
somebody else. I was just going to give you time.
I believe I covered that in my
that's a yes or no?
That's a yes answer.
Thank you. Murray wants to know, the problem with free Dropbox is that they are limited to 3 devices.
The free version is limited to 3 devices. If you have the paid version, you can have as many as you want, I believe.
Ken wants to know, is there a Microsoft file-based copy utility that only copies files not on a destination drive, preferably that's free? Would that be the Windows 10 file history? Bill?
I would say yes, that's included. And OneDrive is free up to a point.
That's right. Okay, this is for Bill. Can Windows file history backup files, you'll love this one, from D instead of the default folders on the C drive? It looked like it was just an on-off.
Judy, did you ask that
No,
question?
no, this came from Bill. I cannot tell you guys how it sucks having your data on a D drive with all these backup programs. They go, what?
We have yet to figure out the answer to that.
Right.
Judy is having all kinds of problems trying to do that. And I was supposed to research it. I haven't done so.
Thank you for doing that. Carol says, if using cloud storage and have a link to easily access cloud storage location from your local computer, how vulnerable is the data if someone gets either physical or remote access to your computer? Do you make a backup of cloud data so you don't lose it?
You want me to try that one, or does somebody else?
No, try it. Take it on.
Okay. So first of all, Dropbox has a local copy of your data stored on your computer. So if you don't have internet access, you still have access to my current data that I'm working on. All right. Then you said, well, how secure is your computer? Physical access to my computer gives somebody the opportunity to try to break into it. Depending upon the operating system, the number of times you enter a password can slow down the amount of time it takes for the password to work, up to a point where you might have it say, you've entered the password too many times, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, or I'm going to lock it up, or something like that. If you're using a Mac, and I know the PCs have the same thing, the Mac has encrypted file vault, so the entire hard drive is encrypted. If you take my hard drive out of my computer, it's not even a good boat anchor. It's not heavy enough to do anything, because you're not going to recover the data. It's just not worth screwing with, I don't think. I mean, let's get realistic. We're not government states or anything like that, right? I mean, this is just normally prudent kinds of activities that you can do that will keep your hardware safe. Now, if your password is a 3-digit code or a 4-digit code to get into your computer, well, you get what you get, you know? If you want to use something more than that, certainly like a 6-digit password, with some of these other conventions included, you're going to add more and more security to your device access.
Thank you. This is for you, Art. Jack has a Western Dig NAS and an older MacBook Pro. He currently uses True Machine to do wireless backup to his external hard drive. Is there any advantage, at least in terms of speed of backup, in connecting directly via wired connection? And if so, what is the configuration?
I'm sorry, I'm not the guy to ask. No, I'm just, the reason I say that is this, okay? I've never seen his NAS device. I don't know what operating system's running on the NAS device. I don't know what application he's running as an agent to do the backup. So we've got an awful lot of variables that I have no knowledge of. Now, the one question that I would answer is, if it's all possible, I would put a Cat6 cable and make sure that that wireless or that NAS drive has a static IP address, so that you can always get that gigabit Ethernet kind of throughput between your computer and your NAS device.
If Jack would like to send me more data that you need, can I send the question to you if it's more filled out?
Maybe we can certainly take a look at it. Yes, I mean.
That's for me. Okay, Jack, my email address is jtaylour. You got it from me today with the link at apcug.org if you want to flesh out your question. Art said he'd be happy to take a look at it. Carol has a comment about file history. If using encryption program, VeraCrypt, for example, to create an encrypted vault container on local hard drive, Windows 10 file history does not recognize files in the vault container have changed and does not back them up. If creating a system image or using a program to back up the computer, it should back up to the vault container. George Bowden says, does Windows 10 backup allow mounting the backup as another drive and with access by a new user ID? And I would say that is for Bill.
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay, we'll clarify that more later. Jim wants to know, how do online sync schemes handle virus infections on his current computer? Up for grabs.
All right. To answer the exact question that was asked, the virus propagates through your entire system, period, okay? And if you're syncing, you're gonna sync the virus just as much as it's just, that's the way it works. Now, your antivirus program, anti-malware program should be catching this stuff, but the question says you've got the virus and now what's gonna happen as it's working inside of your system.
From Ken, he would like to know if it's possible to turn off the sync function on cloud servers, whichever.
I don't use sync to my cloud. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not set up as a syncing system. It's set up as a real-time connection so that anything that I'm doing is I'm working in the cloud. I'm not working on my computer. pCloud does not, it's all links on my computer to pCloud. So when I work in pCloud, I'm working in the pCloud server.
On the Google Drive, you can turn the sync off. And you can, I believe you can turn it off in OneDrive as well.
Thank you so much. When you do a backup, is that where you go to find your files? If so, when you update a document in a cloud, will that document be updated on your hard drive? That's for you, Bill.
Well, we're talking about syncing again. So whatever you sync to the cloud is going to sync across your devices. And that would include the OneDrive folder that's on your computer.
Carol would like to know what is the difference between backing up and syncing?
In my mind, there is no difference, but backing up is, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but yet you talked about how it syncs between your devices. That's the clue.
Oh yeah, that's true. But then again, you still
if Bill, he only uses OneDrive, he does not save anything to his hard drive. And he does that because he's a Windows purist, as well as he accesses all his data by his telephone, his Mac, his PC, his other PC, his Chromebook, and his smartphone. So he doesn't have, like I said, he doesn't have anything on his C drive. So when he updates a document, it just, updates it on OneDrive. So he doesn't have the hard drive option. Art, how does one test a time machine backup?
That's a good question. I guess I've never thought about testing a time machine backup. What I have done is I've gone into, opened up Time Machine, and then reviewed backwards. It's kind of like a calendar. I can look at like 10 days ago and see if the files are available, or maybe I can go all the way back to the very first time I used it. I can go back and check and copy a file forward. But what I haven't done is I haven't tried to restore a computer from a time machine backup, which is a possible way to go, okay? In my system, I use an external hard drive. As you said, it keeps it from being subject to ransomware.
Would that be like my option of creating a test gobbledygook document, and then after the backup happens, going and checking to see if it's there? That it's actually working?
It's like, I think yours is a subset of what I'm doing, because I think that looking at one file could be possible, but thinking about recovering an entire drive, in other words, my computer's shot. I'm going to take that external drive, I'm going to plug it in and use it as my bootable drive. That's another rough order of magnitude more complex as a process, I think.
I don't do complex things.
Art, I have a question for you. When I replaced my Mac Mini with a new one, I had Time Machine running, but I didn't use that as the source to restore the box I'd used, Icloud. So is there a difference?
Yes. Okay, so the difference is this. I don't know where your Time Machine backup resides. I'm going to assume it's residing on your hard drive, your Macintosh HD hard drive?
No, it's a separate drive.
Okay, so you have is it internally mounted?
No, external.
Okay, so you've got an external drive. Is it a Lightning drive?
It's USB.
Okay, so it's just a USB. Okay, fine. But it's mounted and it's being used all the time. Okay, so that's basically storage in your location. iCloud is going to be storage at Apple's location. But there's so many applications that Apple makes available to migrate. There's a migration assistant, and there's just all kinds of ways of doing it. So if it works, that's all it counts, right?
Yeah, correct.
Art, here's another question. Hold on. Oh, what brand and configuration of your NAS? Please let us know. From Clark.
Okay. I have a QNAP, and it's a 5-bay NAS, and I run RAID 5, which means it's mirroring and striping with a parity bit, which also means that if one drive fails, I can replace that drive and it'll self-recover, which is pretty sweet. So there's an awful lot of resiliency in using a RAID 5 array on your NAS.
Thank you. Rich Allen from Johnny.
Yes.
When you do a backup, does the desynchronized copy file by file or only update the changed or added files? Because backing up a large drive takes a long time.
It will only back up files that are changed or added. If a file, like when I do a backup of my entire data drive, if a file hasn't been changed, it just skips it by. And then if it has changed, then it'll come up and say added or replaced. So yeah, it will only affect the files that were changed or added.
Thank you. That answers something for me too. Are OneDrive, Google Drive, and others encrypted with the usual AES blah, blah, blah? Yes or no?
Some are, some aren't, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Find out.
I haven't. I'll just have to research it, but I'm pretty sure they are. I mean,
Would
these
you
people are.
please
Yes.
It's P-Cloud
answer this
and
question at your
Intranext.
presentation next week.
I would just,
comment-
in just a moment, the one thing I would say is P-Cloud offers you an encrypted container inside of their cloud storage so that if you want to store something super secret, you can put it inside their encrypted container. And that's a feature that they make available through their menuing system as well.
And OneDrive has just introduced a similar feature as well.
From Joel, sync.com is another cloud service. First part paid, then pay for more space. Encryption and one special feature, they are located in Canada. Canada has different laws than the US, more like Europe. And he believes this means the government cannot demand data from this server. Bill, if you have both an iPad and an iPhone, how can you have to back up accounts if you have to set up the backup with your iCloud address? Won't they be the same? That's from Bill. So whoever has an iPad and an iPhone, and that's not Bill James because he has an Android phone.
But the answer is they'll both be backed up to the same information, regardless if it's an iPhone or iPad.
And Bob G, I bet you have an answer for something that I passed by eons ago. So can you unmute yourself, or John will take care of that?
He's good. Just a second. I said he's good. Yep.
There you go.
Judy, for your OneDrive question, the answer is no, you can't automatically sync D because they only work off C. However, you can drag and drop anything from D into your OneDrive.
You know,
Sorry.
Judy,
You know, having a D drive really sucks. Let me tell you.
It protects you.
It's just a Windows box, that's all.
I don't care. Okay, you guys. Murray, you have a question. Thank you for the answer, Bob.
Okay, well, I have a couple of things. First of all, as far as backup or back in time, time machine on the Mac, I can tell you that it has absolutely saved my bacon. I had a very critical time. I was at my grandson's wedding, and I had done a whole bunch of video, transferred it to the machine. It's an SSD built into an iMac, MacBook. The hard drive failed, and with an SSD, when it fails, it is dead, D-E-A-D. Okay, I had Time Machine. Unfortunately, that was on an external drive. That was a rotating hard drive. It failed. However, because very often a rotating hard drive, you can recover the data. I was 200 miles from the nearest Apple location. I was able to go to a Walmart and buy an external hard drive, copy everything over to that, from the Time Machine to that hard drive, get things so that I could boot off that new hard drive. And I only lost about 3 or 4 files in total. So I can tell you, Time Machine on the Mac really works well for recovering and with a complete and utter disaster. The second thing is, nobody's mentioned a service that I use. I actually back up all of my genealogy files and all of my bills and bank statements and things like that to a very security and privacy oriented cloud system based in New Zealand called Mega.nz. And I've basically come to rely on it more since the free Dropbox dropped there, made it so you could only have 3 devices. You know, I have so many devices that didn't help me very much anymore. So I've kind of gone to it. It's not as convenient, it's not as fast, but it is very, very reliable. And then I guess the third thing I want to mention, I was just looking at the storage on this particular PC that I'm using right now. And this is where backup is a real challenge. I do the backup. I use very often, I use, it's like Clonezilla, but I just use a live DVD of a Unix or Linux application and use, a version of DD, which is DD-CFLD, I think it is, to make clones of my C drives. But on this particular PC, I have 26 terabytes of storage on this PC. To back up that much of storage, you know, it just isn't feasible. Anyway, and then I also mentioned I have a FreeNAS server with 5 drives, like somebody else mentioned, and that has been running reliably now for several years, but it's configured so that if any 2 drives fail, I don't lose any data. And I have in the past, quite a long time ago now, I actually had 2 hard drives in that fail within a few days, and I did not lose 1 bit of data. So those are my comments and everything. And I think it's, who's the Linux guy? Kennedy?
Sometimes.
Anyway, what I would like to do is later on, and maybe offline, is get some advice on BTRFS. but I'll talk to somebody. I'd like to do that offline later on.
Yeah, you have to talk to Sharon on that because I don't use that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Murray. Appreciate that.
Thank
Does
you very
anybody
much.
have any more questions? Because we've got 2 minutes and John turns into a pumpkin. Outstanding.
Yes.
Thank you so much for attending today. This was a great workshop. I hope you got what you were coming for and more. You
Jack
will be
has a
getting
question.
link. I know you will be getting a link to the video when we do that, as well as a PDF of all of the presentations.
Thank you. This has been fantastic.
Judy, did you have another possibility for a workshop next month besides the Linux and the ramps?
Murray said great workshops, and I said too bad nobody ever gets back to me with any suggestions. But yes, I do. But hey, you know, the well is almost dry here.
Well,
Coming
you
up
do have a genealogy one next month, I think. don't you?
we already talked about that, and we're having a Linux, but we usually have one the Wednesday before the Linux, but I can't think of anything to do.
Well, I think we could even do more on this backup. This has been the most fantastic workshop.
Well, if you have ideas on what to do and people to do it, let me know. And I hope everybody backs up. And when I was giving my presentation, that you under your breath, you said the pledge. John did. He knew to raise his hand. He's a good elementary school kid, let me tell you. And encourage everybody that you know to back up. Have a meeting about to publicize that meeting, to preach to the people who haven't got a clue about what backup is about. Remember, seniors, which is kind of our target market, because young people don't want to, you know, they don't need us, so to speak. To try to get new members. The Wisconsin group is having specific presentations and advertising it via Nextdoor, and they will have 60+ people at their Nextdoor type presentations, and they get new members. Over to you, John, to shut us down.
Okay. Really like to thank Judy and Art and Rich and Bill joining me today on this excellent workshop. And look forward to seeing everybody. Unbelievably, tomorrow is April, and no April Fools. Back up so you aren't fooled on that day. Have a great rest of March and a good April. We'll see you back in a few weeks.